Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayana Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudirayat Ashtaprayeshu Abhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttama Shloke Bhakti Bhavati Naishtiki. Jai. So welcome everyone to this morning's Srimad Bhagavatam class. My pleasure to be here with all of you today. We're going to be reading from Srimad Bhagavatam Canto 4, chapter 3, entitled Talks Between Lord Shiva and Sati. And the text here is text 19. Tatari bina vyatate shilamukai Tatari bina vyatate shilimukai Shete ditango ridayena duyata Shete titango ridayena duyata Swanam yata vakradhiyam duruptibhir. Swanam yata vakradhiyam duruptibhir. Divanisham tapyati marmatadita. Divanisham tapyati marmatadita. Tatari bhirna vyatate shilimukhai. Sheter titango ridayena duyata. Swanam yata vakradhiyam duruptibhir. Divanisham tapyati marmatadita. Please chant. Tatari bhirna vyatate shilimukhai. Shete titango ridayena duyata. Swanam yata vakradhiyam duruptibhir. Divanisham tapyati marmatadita.
Tatari virna vidate shilimukhai. Titango hridayena duyata. Swanam yata vakradhiyam duruptibhir. Divanisham tapyati marmatadita.
Tatari virna vyatate shilimukhai.
Tatari bhirna vyatate shilimukhai.
Sheter titango hridayena duyata.
Sheter titango ridayena duyata.
Swanam yata vakradhiyam duruptibhir.
Swanam yata vakradhiyam duruptibhir.
Divanisham tapyati marmatadita.
Divanisham tapyati marmatadita. Okay, let's do the word for word. Tata, so. Aribhi, enemy. Na, not. Vyatate, is hurt. Shilimukhai, by the arrows. Shete, rests. Ardita, aggrieved. Anga, a part. Hridayena, by the heart. Duyata, grieving. Swanam, of relatives. Yata, as. Vakradiyam, deceitful. Duruptibhi, by harsh words. Divanisham, day and night. Tapyati, suffers. Marmataditaha, one whose feelings are hurt. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Lord Shiva continued, if one is hurt by the arrows of an enemy, one is not as aggrieved as when cut by the unkind words of a relative, for such grief continues to rend one's heart day and night. Please repeat. Lord Shiva continued, if one is hurt by the arrows of an enemy, one is not as aggrieved as when cut by the unkind words
as cut by unkind words
of a relative.
of a relative.
For such grief
For such grief
continues to rend one's heart day and night.
continues to reign one's heart day and night.
Srila Prabhupada's purport. Sati might have concluded that she would take the risk of going to her father's house, and even if her father spoke unkindly against her, she would be tolerant, as a son sometimes tolerates the reproaches of his parents. But Lord Shiva reminded her that she would not be able to tolerate such unkind words, because natural psychology dictates that although one can suffer harm from an enemy and not mind so much, because pain inflicted by an enemy is natural, when one is hurt by the strong words of a relative, one suffers the effects continually, day and night, and sometimes the injury becomes so intolerable that one commits suicide. Om Jnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurum Militan Jena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manovishtam Stapitam Jena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurum Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatam Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvetam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakam Vitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanchakalpa Tarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Right, so here in this verse, Lord Shiva is speaking to who?
Sati.
To his wife Sati, yes. And the occasion is that she knows that her father is having a big event at his home, at her paternal home. And so she wants to go. And she knows that all of her family will be there. And Daksha has many children. And Sati is the youngest of, I think, 13 daughters, right? And as the youngest child, she's actually the pet child of her father. And so she's thinking, of course I have to go. There's a big event. My father's throwing a huge party. Not only are all my family members going to be there, but all the demigods, along with their wives, are coming from all the higher planets. And from where she's staying at Kailash with Lord Shiva, she's seeing all these celestial airplanes passing through. All the demigoddesses are decked out with their fancy clothes and jewelry and all kinds of ornaments because they're going to this big event. It's something that's such a huge event that it's known throughout the whole universe. And so Sati's thinking, everybody is coming to this event and it's at my own home, my own childhood home. Of course I have to go. Of course I have to go. So her heart is just pulling her. Everything, she just wants to go so badly. So she goes to her husband, Lord Shiva, and she says, my dear husband, you have such a great personality, and I know you understand my heart. You know how much I want to go to this event. Please, let's go together. So Lord Shiva says, no, I'm not going. The last time I was there with your father, it did not go well. And I don't want to reenact that unfavorable pastime. So he says, I'm not going. And she says, well, maybe I can go anyway. he says, I don't think that's a good idea either. So she's very disappointed. She's very frustrated. And so Lord Shiva is trying to explain to her why she shouldn't go. And so this is what he's saying. He's saying that, you're thinking that it's your family there and that everything's going to be okay and that you're going to be able to tolerate your father's, awkwardness and his, sometimes harsh words. But actually it's worse that it's your family. Because if a family member insults you or insults someone dear to you, then it's even more painful than if it's just a stranger or an enemy. Because like Prabhupada explains here, that if an enemy insults you, that's just to be expected, right? Or if a stranger insults you, like sometimes we go out preaching, we go out on book distribution, and we try to approach people, they may say something insulting, they may say something hurtful, but it doesn't really hurt us, we at first we may be like, oh, ouch, like that wasn't a very nice thing to say. But we very quickly get over it, we go approach the next person, because this person's just ignorant. They're just in ignorance, they're frustrated in their life, they're suffering, they're under the influence of the modes of ignorance and passion, which are making them say things that are hurtful. And they have their problems, I'm not going to make it my problem. So then we just regather our strength and approach the next person and hope that Krishna will send the next person so we can quickly recover from that. But even if the next person also insults us, it doesn't affect us so much. But when someone that's very near and dear to us speaks some harsh words, then it's very, very painful. It's just like Lord Shiva is saying that it's like arrows. These words are like arrows that pierce the heart and cause the heart to grieve for a long, long time, day and night. Right? We'll stay recapping the conversation in our mind. We'll be lying in bed at night and thinking, how could they say such a terrible thing? And maybe I should have responded. And why didn't anybody stand up for me? And how did that even happen? And what did I do or say to deserve this kind of insult? And will the relationship ever come together again? Because that's the real issue, right? It's not so much the words, it's about the relationship. And that's why it hurts so much, is because we value that relationship. That particular relationship is very, very important to us because, it's, in Sati's case, it's her father. It's such an important relationship. It's the relationship, the person who provided for her and protected her through her childhood, who was so affectionate, who was her shelter whenever she was, when children are disturbed or afraid, they'll go running to the father or running to the mother. So that person is the person who is their prime caregiver, and also who is their, especially for children, the parents are kind of like their support person, their cheerleader, who's cheering them on and encouraging them, giving them the strength to step out and, try a new skill, learn something new, go do something that maybe they're a little afraid to do, they're lacking the confidence to do, but the parents are like, no, you can do it, I believe in you, you're really good at this, you're going to be great, and then on the strength of the parents' encouragement, then the child can do so many things. But if, on the other hand, the parents are very, very cutting, and they have a condemning mood, like, oh, you're so stupid, why are you always doing such foolish things, why can't you ever do anything right, what's wrong with you? Sometimes I've heard parents speak to their children like that, and perhaps they think that they're doing the children a favor by pointing out their foolishness so that they'll improve. But actually those words, when spoken by the parents, can be extremely devastating to the child, because they actually believe the words of the parents. If the parents tell them that you're great, you're so talented, you're gonna knock them dead up there, just go do something, then the kid's like, yeah, they get confident. But if the parents are telling them that, oh, you're so stupid, you're always making so many mistakes, what's wrong with you? Then they'll start thinking, oh, I'm just a fool, I'm just useless, I can't do anything right. And then they'll they'll never develop the confidence to actually do wonderful things. And they may end up spending their whole life operating on a level which is way below their potential, below their actual level of competence. So, parents, especially children, because the children are so impressionable, but also in devotee circles, as spiritual leaders, it's the same. So when people come to Krishna consciousness, very new people, they come in, we need to be aware of how impressionable they are, and how much our words and our encouragement and validation means to them, how important that is for them. So that's why when new people come, we have to, not be so eager to point out their faults. Like, why are you touching that with the left hand, or why are you putting that book on the floor, or why are you sitting like this in front of, sometimes we have a tendency to just go correcting, and our intentions may be good, but it may actually have very deleterious effects on a new person. They may feel like, oh, I came to the temple to try to, improve my spiritual life, to have a connection with God, to associate with saintly people, and I just did everything wrong. I just made so many mistakes, I made so many offenses, I just contaminated the whole the whole place by my bad consciousness. I just feel like a big black spot on a white sheet. Better I don't go and disturb everyone. So then they may not come back. So we have to give people the impression that we're so happy that you're here, and just chant and be happy and take prasadam, and then gradually people come to understand. They'll learn in their own way, in their own time, and these little details, they don't make so much, they're not so important, especially in the beginning. And usually the best way for people to learn is to observe, because people learn by, they look around. When someone comes into any new social setting, the first thing that they do is just observe. Okay, how are people interacting? What is the etiquette here? Okay, I see that someone's going up and getting some flowers and doing some circles and putting there on their feet. I'll do the same, like that. So they don't need to be told. They see that the curtain's open, everyone's paying obeisances, I guess I should pay obeisances also. So like that, they see. So basically, like most of the Vaishnava etiquette, we learn without being even told. We just learn from following the example. So that's why the best preaching that we can do is just by setting a good example, being exemplary devotees, and so that our behavior, when other people see us as role models, then they can just model it. They can just follow that example and learn. And then instead of being strict with others, we should be strict with ourselves. Right? Strict with ourselves and lenient with others, because they're also growing in their own time. So the interesting thing here is that, of course, Lord Shiva, he's such a great personality. He knows, he's Trikalagya, so he knows past, present, and future. So he's making a general statement here, but he knows very well that that's exactly what's going to happen when Sati goes there, is that she's going to be insulted. And in fact, it's not that she's even insulted, because Daksha doesn't so much insult her, but he just insults her husband. So that's also something that we need to remember, is that, if we tell somebody, oh, I love you, I appreciate you, but, your husband is problematic, your wife is a problem, or your children cause a disturbance, or, your parents are in Maya, or whatever, we say things like that. That can be just as harmful or even more painful to the person than if you would insult them or criticize them personally. So we have to be very, very sensitive that, we don't live in a vacuum. Each person has so many, people that they care about, and we have to also, if we really love a person, we need to also love the people that they love, right? So this was a fault of Daksha, that he's thinking that he loves his daughter, but he didn't accept her husband, and so this caused a huge rift in the relationship between him and his daughter. And So sometimes we may feel these tendencies arising in ourselves that criticizing someone, finding fault in someone, we may want to insult someone. So we have to be, when we feel those tendencies arising, because it's unfortunately is natural in this material world, is that we tend to have a fault-finding propensity. When we feel that fault-finding propensity arising, then we have to try to be introspective. You know, like I think it was Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur said that when you point a finger at someone, then 3 fingers are pointing back at you. So that usually we see the faults that we notice in others are the faults that we have ourselves, right? The fact that somebody's doing something that disturbs me so much is because I have that fault in myself. That same behavior of the person doesn't disturb someone else that much, but it really irks me very badly. So we can take that as an indication that, oh, I have that fault, you know, I have that anartha in my own heart. So I'm actually grateful that this person is exhibiting these things so that I can understand what things I need to work on in myself. But Daksha was not thinking that way, unfortunately. And we can see that the reason that he was insulting Lord Shiva is because of pride. And that he wanted to be the most superior person in the assembly, and he just couldn't stand it that Lord Shiva wasn't offering him respects. So when we're expecting or demanding respect from others, then we get ourselves in trouble. We end up getting disturbed because it often happens that people aren't going to respect us. They're not going to realize what great personalities we are, great personalities that we think we are. And we also may not be the great personalities that we think we are. We may have very inflated ideas of our position. So, so actually, it's not that Lord Shiva didn't respect Daksha, but when Daksha entered the assembly, it's just that Lord Shiva was so absorbed in his meditation on Krishna that he didn't really notice that Daksha even walked into the assembly. So, of course, Lord Shiva is a Vaishnava, and a Vaishnava offers all respects unto others. So that's what we're trying to practice, right? Is Trinadapi Sunichena Tarori Vasi Hishnuna Amanina Manadena Kirtaniya Sadahari. So Amanina Manadena means that we don't expect any respect for ourselves, but we're ready to offer all respects unto others. And that all respects unto others doesn't just mean, you know, our gurus or our senior God brothers and God sisters or Srila Prabhupada disciples or ISKCON leaders, but it means everyone. We should respect everyone, even juniors, even new people, even young people, even non-devotees, that we should respect everyone according to their position, because everyone is a spirit soul, everyone is dear to Krishna. And some people may be confused and misguided, and some people may be immature, but still, as souls, they should be respected, right? Like Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita that Vidya Vinaya Sampane Brahmane Gavihastini Shuni Chaiva Swapake Cha Pandita Samadarshinaha. Yeah, that someone who's really learned, that real education means to see everyone equally as spirit souls, to have Samadarshinaha, equal vision. And not be eager to be honored. That's how we get ourselves into trouble. And when we're eager to be honored and we're not honored, then we become disturbed, we become upset, we develop animosity towards the people that didn't respect us, and then it makes it very difficult to chant Hare Krishna. That's why Lord Chaitanya says that Kirtaniya Sadahari, that constant chanting of the holy names is only possible when we're humble, when we're tolerant, and when we aren't demanding respect, but we're respecting all others. Then we can actually chant constantly. And that's the goal, especially in this age of Kali Yuga, because in this age, Hare Nama, Hare Nama, Hare Nama Eva Kevalam, Kalo Nastyeva, Nastyeva, Nastyeva Gatir Anyata. that in this age of Kali, the only means of deliverance is the holy name, chanting the holy name of the Lord. And the more we chant, the more we're going to make fast spiritual advancement. But chanting, we need to chant with quality. Right? We need to chant with focus, with attention, with absorption, with love and devotion, with reverence and affection for the Lord, for Shri Radha and Krishna. And we can't do that if we're just feeling disturbed and we're just absorbed in our own false ego, thinking, what about me, and why didn't this person respect me, and why did that person insult me, and how dare they say this, or how dare they do that, or, like that. So just try to be like a tree, like what Tanya says, be like a tree. So the tree stands there outside in all kinds of weather. Sometimes it's raining, sometimes it's snowing, there's strong winds, sometimes the wind may be so strong that it even rips a branch off the tree. Tree branch falls down in the storm. Sometimes a bird comes along, right, and pecks at the trunk of the tree and causes some damage there on the tree, or sometimes some insects come and burrow into the tree or eat the leaves of the tree, and the tree just stands there. The tree doesn't do anything. It doesn't, drive the bird away. It doesn't, flick the insects off. It just stands there, it just tolerates. So we have to be that tolerant. Be that tolerant like a tree. That even if somebody does insult us or mistreat us or exhibit some kind of rude or harsh behavior, that we just tolerate it like the tree does, without being disturbed, right? Because all these situations just come and go. Like Krishna also says that matra sparshas tu konteya sitoshna sukadukada agama payino nityas tam stitikshasva bharata. That the non-permanent appearance of happiness and distress are just like the coming and going of the winter and summer seasons, that they arise from sense perception. And so one should tolerate them without being disturbed. So that's very interesting that Krishna says they arise from sense perception. In other words, insults and injuries and things like that, they're due to sense perception. That we hear some insult, we feel some thing, but they don't actually, the point here is that they just affect the body and mind, the gross and subtle material bodies. Those things don't actually affect the soul. And that's how we can remain tolerant, is by remembering that I'm a spirit soul. And the soul cannot be cut to pieces by any weapon. It can't be withered by the wind, or moistened by water, or burned by fire. And it also can't be hurt by any kind of insults, or abuses, or mistreatments, or disrespect. The soul is eternally blissful, right? Eternally blissful means there's never a time when the soul is not blissful. So if we're not blissful, that means we're identifying with the body and mind. It means we're absorbed in the false identification of self. So it's easy to say and difficult to do, right? In theory, we can understand these things, but in application, it's very difficult to remember that we're spirit souls and to actually exist on the spiritual platform in transcendental consciousness. And that's why there's so much in the Bhagavad Gita about transcendental consciousness, right? In chapter 2, there's Arjuna asked a very important question. What are the symptoms of a person in transcendental consciousness? How do they speak? How do they sit? How do they walk? And so Krishna goes into a detailed explanation of all the symptoms of the Stita Di Muni, right? The person who's in transcendental consciousness. So we can learn from this. And then later, Krishna also describes in the 16th canto the divine qualities as in contrast to the demoniac qualities. And we see that demoniac qualities are, pride, arrogance, conceit, harsh speech. So all the qualities that Daksha is exhibiting in this pastime. Although Daksha's not a demon, right? He's not a demon. So it's interesting how often great personalities who are devotees, who are respected all over the universe, like Daksha, the demons weren't coming to his event. All the demigods were coming. So he was respected even by the demigods from the heavenly planets, who govern, the universal affairs. And even I think in the end, Lord Vishnu comes to this event, right? Lord Vishnu shows up. So Daksha was an exceptional personality. He wasn't an ordinary personality, even materially speaking, and he was. The fact that he was respected by great personalities like the demigods means that he was a great personality himself. And yet, these qualities were within him. So a person may not be an out-and-out demon, but they still have these demoniac qualities of pride and arrogance, and which may drive them to act demoniacally, speaking harsh words. The way that he insults Lord Shiva is just really horrendous, right? He's dirty, he's filthy, he's just like a monkey, he really goes very low with his insults against Lord Shiva. So it's no wonder why Sati becomes so hurt by it. So we have to also be conscious of our own consciousness, right? We have to be Krishna conscious, but we also have to, we're practicing the science of self-realization. And self-realization includes God realization, because what is the self? The self is the soul, and what is the soul? Jivara Swarapahoy, Krishna and Nityadas. So we can't know ourselves separately from knowing Krishna, because the self is constitutionally a servant of Krishna. But if we try to know Krishna without knowing ourselves, that doesn't work either. So we can't know ourselves without knowing Krishna, and we can't know Krishna without knowing ourselves. So the two go hand in hand, self-realization and God realization. So part of knowing ourselves is understanding how ourselves as souls have become conditioned due to many lifetimes in this material world, and how our conditioning is affecting our capacity to serve Krishna. Because that's the problem, right? Is that we have, through many lifetimes in the material world, we've acquired anarthas, we've acquired unwanted things. There's so many layers of material contamination that are covering our real identity, so that we can't really see our true selves. So the problem with these things is that they cause us to act in ways that are unfavorable to devotional service, and that they affect our devotee relationships, they affect our family relationships, they affect everything. And they affect our relationship with Krishna. Because unless we can have loving, affectionate relationships with devotees and with everyone, basically, then how are we going to have a loving, affectionate relationship with Krishna? Because all living entities are Krishna's parts and parcels. So if we say, I want to have a loving, affectionate, intimate relationship with you, but I don't like your children, or I don't like your family members, or I don't like your friends, I don't like the other brahmacharis in the ashram, then how are we going to have then that person is not going to want to have a close relationship with us. They're not going to be able to trust us, because at any moment they may hurt someone that we love. So the same thing with Krishna. Devotees are very dear to Krishna. So if we offend devotees, if we're always seeing faults in devotees, then Krishna is also going to stand back. He's going to, remain at a distance from us. He's not going to trust us. He's not going to pull us into his, inner circle of association, because at any moment we may say something that's going to hurt someone that he loves. And that's and Krishna's devotees are so dear to Krishna that, if someone hurts a devotee, then Krishna gets very upset. Right? There's nothing that's more painful to Krishna than Vaishnava Aparad. And that's why that's the main offense against the holy name, is to blaspheme the devotees who have dedicated their lives to the propagation of the holy name of the Lord. So, someone may wonder, okay, blaspheme devotees is an offense to the devotees, but how is it an offense to the holy name, right? I'm not saying anything bad about the holy name. I'm saying bad things about that person, a devotee who's got some issues or whatever. So no, Krishna doesn't see it that way. Krishna's like, no, you offended that devotee, it means you offended me. He takes it personally. He takes it very personally. In the same way that if someone mistreats your child, you're going to take it very personally, right? So, if we want a good relationship with Krishna, we need to have good relationships with devotees. Means that we need to speak kindly to devotees. And it's like my mother used to tell me, if you don't have anything nice to say, then don't say anything at all, right? Just keep quiet and don't speak harsh words. The only situation in which we have a right to criticize devotees is if we are their guru in some way, shape, or form. Diksha guru, shiksha guru, or a teacher or mentor, and or a parent for our children. If we have a relationship where that person is approaching us and asking to be corrected, like, please help me to advance, please point out my faults so that I can improve, because sometimes we're in so much ignorance that we're not even aware of what our faults are. We're not even aware of where we're going wrong. So we really do need someone to correct us and just direct us in the right way. But if we don't have the relationship with that person where they're seeking and requesting our room for suggestions for how they can improve, then we should just don't go there. Don't criticize them, don't chastise them, don't even try to correct them. Just be friendly. Just speak kind words, encouraging words, sweet words, palatable words, right? That's what Krishna says. This is austerity of speech. So austerity of speech means to speak words which are truthful and pleasing and, what's the other one? Forgetting. Truthful, pleasing.
Not agitating others.
Not agitating to others. Okay, yeah. And the fourth thing is regularly reciting Vedic literature. So, yeah, if we're not, and it's actually in the purport of that verse that Srila Prabhupada says that unless one is a teacher, one should not correct others, because they're not going to hear it anyway, and they're just going to be offended and discouraged and not like us. So it doesn't work. You're wasting your time. It's all going to backfire. So just don't do it unless you're in the position of being a teacher. So otherwise, just speak words that are pleasing and that are not agitating, and just be careful, because we don't want to disturb others. We don't want to agitate others' minds. And Krishna says later in the 12th chapter of Bhagavad Gita that one who does not agitate the minds of others is very dear to me. That's one of in chapter 12, when he gives so many qualities of a person who is dear to him. So that's one of the qualities, is that one who doesn't agitate the minds of others. So here we're going to see a whole drama. Actually, this section from the 4th canto in relation to Shiva and Sati and Daksha and the Yajna and I always feel like this would make an amazing movie. It'd be like a blockbuster motion picture, because it's super dramatic, right? It's just got all the elements of drama. There's violence, there's romance, there's insult, there's fury, there's, you could have incredible sound effects. You've got this huge demon that comes and just starts killing people. You get somebody getting their head cut off in a sacrificial altar and being brought back to life. It's just so dramatic in every way, shape, or form. So you're going to see this drama unfolding more as the pastime goes on. But this is a very important lesson for us. And unfortunately, Sati didn't listen to her husband, as wives sometimes don't. So he was giving her good advice, but her emotions were so strong. Her emotions and her feelings that were drawing her to her father's house to attend this event were so strong that she couldn't, the rational side of her intelligence was not working, and she just couldn't take it, and she ended up going. So she went, and I want to spoil the suspense here by telling you what happened. Of course, some of you already know, but the speakers will be speaking on those topics, so I won't go there. But for now, we can just learn from this important instruction that Lord Shiva is giving to Sati, that to be very sensitive, to not speak unkind words, and to be aware of how painful unkind words can be if we speak those unkind words to a relative or any devotees, because in ISKCON it's a big devotee family, right? Srila Prabhupada is our grandfather, and our gurus are all our spiritual fathers, and Srila Prabhupada's disciples are all our spiritual aunts and uncles, and we're all brothers and sisters and cousins. We're all related in this spiritual family. And Srila Prabhupada created such a wonderful society that wherever we can go anywhere in the world, and walk into any ISKCON temple and be received as a family member and be offered, a place, prasadam, sweet words, join in the kirtan, speak with devotees, and so this is our family. It's just like home. It's just like you have family members that live in different parts of the world. You go to their home. Oh, I'm so glad that you came. Come in, take prasadam. You sit down, relax, and they'll ask us, how is the journey? How are you these days? And so it's the same thing when we go to ISKCON temples. That's the same feeling, even if no one knows you. Of course, it's different. Your family knows you, but even the devotees don't even know you. Like most of you here, only Shamananda Krishna here I know, and even him I don't know very well. But somehow I arrived here, and devotees received me at their home. So here's your room, here's prasadam. What can I do for you? And so this is family. This is our family. This is a real family, because these relationships are spiritual. The families that we're born in, those relationships are bodily relationships. Of course, if our families are devotees, that may also be spiritual relationships. But basically, those relationships are bodily connections, and they're temporary. They're temporary. We've taken birth in so many families, we've had so many fathers and mothers, and like we learned about from the pastime of Chitraketu and his son in the 6th canto, with so many fathers and mothers. But the relationship with the spiritual fathers and mothers are eternal. The relationships with the spiritual brothers and sisters and cousins are eternal relationships, because they're on the level of the soul, to the extent that they are on the level of the soul. Sometimes we may have mundane interactions also between devotees. So those things are not so significant in the eternal scope of things. But to the extent that we interact on the spiritual platform, that we enlighten each other in Krishna consciousness, right? That tushyanti cha ramanti cha, always enlightening one another and conversing about Krishna. That should be the basis of our interactions. That we're supporting each other in our Krishna consciousness, we're chanting together, hearing together, discussing Krishna's pastimes, discussing the process of bhakti, revealing our hearts and minds about, our personal challenges, what we're going through, asking for guidance and support from other devotees. So that's sadhu sangha. That's the real sadhu sangha, and that's the basis for eternal relationships. So, and those are the kinds of relationships that are very pleasing to Krishna, right? And that's why Rupa Goswami advises that dadati pratigrinati guyam akyati prichiti bhukte bojayate chaiva shadvidam pritilakshanam. That offering gifts in charity, accepting charitable gifts, revealing one's mind in confidence, inquiring confidentially, accepting prasadam and offering prasadam, that these are the 6 symptoms of love shared by one devotee and another. So he gives us very clear guidelines on how to develop and relish loving exchanges between devotees. And Srila Prabhupada comments in relation to that verse, which is text 4 from the Nectar of Instruction. He comments that by developing loving relationships with devotees, our love for Krishna is awakened. And this is the process of awakening love for Krishna, is by loving Krishna's devotees. Because we're talking about how Vaishnava aparad hurts not only the Vaishnava, and also, sends a painful ripple effect throughout the devotee community, but it also hurts Krishna. We've heard how Vaishnava aparad hurts Krishna, and conversely, by loving Vaishnavas, by serving Vaishnavas with affection, that pleases Krishna so much. So when Krishna is pleased by our loving dealings with devotees, then he rewards us, right? Ye yatam mam prapadyante tam stataiva bhajamyaham. That as we surrender to Krishna, as we serve, and surrender to Krishna means surrendering through devotees, serving devotees. Then Krishna rewards us. He rewards our behavior. And how does he reward us? He rewards us by revealing himself to us, by giving knowledge from within the heart to bring us closer to him and to reawaken our loving relationship with him. So it's very important to have these loving exchanges between devotees, because that's how we achieve the goal of life. That's the goal, right? Prema, Pumarta, Mohan. That the goal of life is love for Krishna, Krishna Prema. And the way to get that Krishna Prema is by practicing the processes of devotional service in the association of devotees and having loving relationships, serving devotees. So, because that's how Krishna is pleased. Okay, so I'll stop here. And any questions or comments on these points? Yes?
Hare Krishna Maharaj. Please accept my humble obeisances. Please forgive me for my ignorance. My question is, so how to maintain this consciousness through all the time? Because many times these modes of material nature we can't escape, right? So whole time, suppose if I take as a grihastha, I meet so many persons, or how to keep this consciousness all the time?
Yeah. Well, the best way is to chant very good japa. Very attentive japa. So most devotees don't chant quality japa. And my observation is that. I see devotees chanting with the beads in the hand, mouth is moving, beads are moving, but the mind is all over the place, right? And even just physically, sometimes doing other things. They'll be, in the kitchen, watching the cooking and chanting japa. They'll be driving, chanting japa. They'll be, scrolling on the phone and chanting japa. Sometimes even having a conversation and, the beads are moving along while they're talking to someone. And it's just like, how are you ever going to make spiritual advancement? This is, like I was saying, this is the process. This is the way to be delivered in the age of Kali. And Lord Chaitanya says in Chaitanya Charitamrita that out of the 9 processes of devotional service, that chanting the holy name is the most important. So this is really, our chanting is the most important thing that we do. It's the basis for all of our spiritual advancement, and it enriches everything that we do in devotional life. And it even helps us materially, like in every way, it helps us. So, how to have better devotee relationships? Chant good japa. How to have more peaceful home life? Chant good japa. How to, understand Srila Prabhupada's books better? Chant good japa. How to be a better pujari and dress the deities, more expertly? Chant good japa. It's just the foundation for everything that we do. And if we do it right, everything goes right. And if we do it wrong, everything goes wrong. It's that important. So just like if the foundation of your building is strong, whatever you build on that is going to be stable. If the foundation is not strong, even if you may invest so much money in materials and engineering, but the thing is going to crack because the foundation is unstable. So like that, the foundation of our spiritual life is our chanting. Lord Chaitanya emphasizes it, the acharyas emphasize it. We're always emphasizing it, but somehow our minds just, diminish the importance all the time and think that so many other things are more important. So many other things are more urgent than japa. So what we have to do for japa is sit down and focus, and do it very intentionally. Before we start our japa, really just remind ourselves, who we are and what we're doing. That Krishna, I'm about to sit here and chant your holy names. Here I am, I'm a spirit soul, I'm your eternal servant, I'm lost here in the material world, I'm suffering the 3-fold miseries of life, and I really need your shelter. I really need to understand myself. I don't even know who I am. I'm so attached to my body and my external situations of my life. I don't even know who I am. So I need your help. I need your help. I need your mercy. And I understand that all that is accessible through the holy name. That this is the way to connect with you. It's the way to receive your mercy. It's the way to reawaken my understanding of my real identity, reawaken my dormant love for you, that everything that I value in life is totally dependent on my chanting. And so now I'm just going to totally focus. Please help me to control my mind and be really present with you now in your holy name. And then chant, Chant like our life depends on it, because it does depend on it. So, yeah. Okay. And then after you chanted good rounds, then you finish your japa and you see the devotees and you're feeling so full of love, you're feeling so happy and satisfied and fulfilled. So naturally that love is just going to come out in your dealings with devotees, because you've just received like a whole bucket full of love from Krishna through the holy name. And so your heart is just pouring over with that. And that affects others. And that's how we inspire others. Inspire devotees in their services. We inspire new people to come to our communities because they feel the love that's coming from Krishna. And when it's through chanting that we connect with Krishna. It's like when you plug in a light, when you plug in a cord to the electrical socket, then the electricity comes. So when we plug into Krishna by chanting the holy name, then the love of Krishna, happiness of Krishna, all the wisdom of Krishna, and all the qualities of Krishna start coming to us, just like electricity flowing through the wires. So it's all the empowerment of Krishna is flowing to our hearts. And that goes to others, that illuminates. The electricity is coming to the lamp, you switch on the lamp, the light fills the room. So the same way that mercy and love of Krishna that comes through the holy name, comes into us, we switch it on, it goes to the room, it fills the room, it affects the hearts of others too. And that enables us to have really sweet relationships with everyone. Okay, thank you. Very good question. Yes?
Like you mentioned, like if some new person comes and he is doing something in this case, so we have to wait until you develop relation with him to tell him something, or just disregard whatever he is doing. Others may see him and follow him also. What is the best way to do it?
Yeah. So the best way can be, in our Krishna House projects, because we're dealing with new devotees and often Western devotees who are coming in and they have no idea of the Vedic culture, and at least devotees who are coming from Indian background, they have a little bit of sense of, culture that, this culture. So generally the way that we're advised to correct people is not telling them directly, but having ishtagostis. So we'll have, in a class, like maybe at the end of the class, we'll say something. So if you notice one person, sitting improperly or something like that, then we'll say, give a class, and at the end of the class say something like, so here we all are blessed to be here in Radha and Gopijana Vallabha's temple, in the presence of Srila Prabhupada. And so when we come to the temple, we want to really act in a way that pleases Krishna. And acharyas have explained, that even the way that we speak in the temple, we should try to avoid mundane conversations while we're in the temple. Avoid, taking a phone call, some business call in the temple. If that happens, just, fold your hands to Krishna, excuse yourself, and step outside, take the call, come back when it's done. And also try to sit in the temple in a way that's very respectful, that shows our humility to Krishna. Keep the feet covered and sit properly like that. So like that, just in a general sense. So then everybody's hearing it, and the person who, they'll be, oh, okay, well, now I know how to sit. Now I know I won't take the phone call inside the temple room anymore, or something like that. But they don't feel targeted. They don't feel like, oh, I'm being singled out as somebody that did something wrong. And they just think it's just a general instruction. So that usually works very well, like that. Okay? So nice to have all the children here. You're having a summer camp? Krishna Fun School summer camp or something?
Yes, Mataji.
That's great. Well, thank you, children, for all coming and hearing a little bit of the class and sitting so nicely and quietly. And hope you have a great day at summer camp. Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Gaur Premanandi, Hari Hari Bol.
Prabhupada,
Jai.